Cause I'm about that. Cause I'm about that.
I'm about that come up, running up on them fools that are talking foolish. Try to get them funds up, killing them mics just like I ran a jewels in. Y'all gonna get done up front, knowing that kid with an attitude, but you can't really blame this motherfucker. It's what he had to do. I'm about that cash flipping, I'm getting it on and off the market. Not about that VIP, not me, not never been a fan of carpets. All about that RIP for all of my Jesus gone departed. All about that finish when I started, I'm about that.
Top down like you're not ready. We ride, we're about that. So high we see the whole city. We own the night. Down like you're not ready. We ride, we're about that. So high we see the whole city. We own the night.
Know that I'm about it, want it, man, I can bring the drama. But it ain't by chance, I'm fucking rapping, you don't really want a problem. Made a little cash in the back end, but still rapping like homie starving. Yeah, y'all gotta ask who the man is, hope I'm gonna be like, beg your pardon. Homie, I'm about that.
Top down like you're not ready. We ride, we're about that. So high we see the whole city. We own the night. Down like you're not ready. We ride, we're about that. So high we see the whole city. We own the night.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to a Tuesday edition of the Ysn Power Hour. DJ Oakley here. Next to me, Ty Bartell, Muncie on the far right. Then you have Quinn, McNuggies, and EB making his triumphant return after a long weekend. Boys, how are we?
Good.
Doing good.
It's Tuesday.
Little fantasy football talk before the show and some collusion talk, some terrible fantasy trade talk, and it's all centered around one guy. There he is.
GM of the century.
GM of the century who's selling his soul for $10 buy-in fantasy football. So interestingly enough, but EB had an interesting
Give me trades.
what's that?
It's not my fault people trade with me.
Yeah, but they're all going to get vetoed anyway.
So
That's
Quinn,
fine.
we're just throwing it out there that you are the worst general manager of all time in fantasy football. Just tossing it out there. EB, you had an interesting kind of recipe for something we should look at. What are your thoughts?
I think we need to just open it up and put it on either DraftKings or FanDuel. That way, not only can everyone from YSN get in on it, but we could open it up to 100 different people, have everyone throwing $1, and winner takes all each week.
So you're saying YSN versus the world?
YSN versus the world, always.
Let's go. I'm in. Maybe we'll have you kind of lead it and set it up for this Sunday. Or I guess you have to do it by Thursday. How does that work?
No, you can do it. You can do it per day. You can do it per game. You can do it. There's a couple different ways you can do it. So if we wanted to do like all the games Sunday, we would just have to have it in by noon, I believe.
Okay. So if you're out there and you want to do some FanDuel or some DraftKings or whatever it may be. Oh, here we go. Pagey's already in saying, let's do it. What do you say, a buck a piece and then the winner take all every week?
Yeah, let's see how many people we can get. I mean, if we get 100 people and a buck a piece, man, that's $100, 97 bucks, whatever it is.
It's 100 bones. Anybody out? Anybody not interested in this?
Is Nuggies legal?
Well, I'm interested, but it's illegal, so.
Oh, that sucks.
Sorry,
Yeah,
McNuggies.
I mean,
couple
that's
ice cream
tough.
seasons away. So
More
we're
than a
going to
couple.
lead this. What do you mean more than a couple? How old are you?
21, right? Not 18.
No, gambling's 18.
Oh, really? I thought it was 21.
No,
You're almost there, buddy.
All right.
Gambling, you have to drink when you're 21.
I thought it was both. My bad.
In Vegas, you have to be 21.
Use Paige's referral code. Well, in Vegas, I think you have to buy drinks in order to gamble, isn't it? Something
No.
like that.
No.
Some casinos you have to be 21 to go in
Yeah.
around the
Atlantic
area
City,
too.
Really?
If alcohol's served on the floor, you have to be 21.
Ah, that's why they don't want to deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
Because they want you flowing into those gambling debts in the casino. I get it. I love it. Yeah, it is. It's business, baby. That's like J.J. Betos would say. It's just business, baby. Guys, to lead off the show, talk a little bit about National Youth Confidence Day. this was, believe it or not, the best option we had. So we're gonna roll into what moment and who was there for you to give you a little confidence in your youth to either do what you're doing now or to kind of take on the world. McNuggies, we'll start with you.
This is a tough one. I mean, I'm probably going to go when I was 8. And my parents and I kind of said, like, I've always wanted to be a sports broadcaster. And I think you know that, DJ. And I think we sat down when I was 8 and they said, okay, we're going to look at camps and like sports broadcasting camps because they were going to back me and push me all the way until I got to at least this point and until I'm the sports broadcaster when I get out of college. So, they've been there for me every step of the way.
Love it. Love it. Paulie, what do you got for National Youth Confidence Day?
I would say it was my grandma. She, always told me what didn't matter. You want to do something, go do it, and we'll support you in doing it. So, I mean, obviously mine was broadcasting as well. So getting into communications and doing that stuff. So she just said, go ahead, follow your dreams and don't worry about it. So I did.
Ty, how about you?
Yeah, I think it was definitely my parents. They were kind of just like Paul. It was always like broadcasting was something I aspired to be involved in since I was a child, and they were always supportive of me. I was kind of shy of a kid growing up, so it was really a process to break out of my shell and just be kind of the loudmouth, rambunctious, talkative person that I am now. But they definitely played a part in that when I was growing up.
Fun fact that people might not know from Ty Bartell is the fact that he's a mountain of a human being at 6'3.5" and walks around. You surprise everybody because everybody comes to me. You know how tall Ty is? And I was like, yeah, he's a tall dude. And even when you came into to HQ this past week, you kind of caught people by surprise because they think you're little for some reason. I don't know if it's just the way you look here on this stream or what, but
I think it's because I just slouch when I sit anyway. Because Richie was like super surprised when I saw Richie in HQ this Saturday. Saturday, was not expecting it.
Love Richie's reactions all the time. EB, who has been your go-to on National Youth Confidence Day?
I'd probably have to go with my dad. I mean, there was a slew of people in my corner from getting into the coaching aspect. Obviously, my dad was the first one to introduce it to me. I kind of grew up in a football locker room when he was at Crestview, and from there, if I had to go with someone outside of family, it'd probably be Paul Julia. I mean, I've known the Julia since I've been 3-4 years old, and just the way that he does things to keep his teams tight and close, and then how he kept things and he would do things with the coaching staff, it just kind of laid the groundwork for it all.
Quincy, who gave you the confidence growing up to be the man you are today?
It was a mixture of my dad and my grandfather. They kind of just guided me along the way, let me make my own mistakes and teach me from those mistakes. They never really forced me into anything, but my dad was always the first one there to kind of laugh at me and be like, hey, this is how you're supposed to do it. But yeah, I mean, my dad was probably the biggest, I guess, inspiration, if you will, to build me into who I am.
Love it. Love it. My mom was a huge, and still is a huge role model in my life. She was able to kind of dig us out of the hole, of the trenches, so to speak. Went to nursing school at night, still worked during the day, and showed me what it's like to have a work ethic. And she's kind of the one that's pushed me to do what I want to do the whole way up. So I give it to my mom, and I also give it to my Aunt Jen, who is the hardest worker that I know. And she raised 3 kids basically all by herself, and a huge supporter of what we're doing here, and of course what we're doing back home. My wife and I raising the 2 little rascals. So happy, what is the official Youth Confidence Day to everybody out there. And I hope you find a way somehow to inspire the youth through what you do. So without further ado, let's get to what usually is a really slow Tuesday show for us, guys. But we're going to hit some hard topics here. And we're going to start it off with a big one that we wanted to talk about yesterday, but we're going to talk about it today. The transfer rules. Does the transfer rule, or is there some kind of I don't even know what the word would be for this. Is there some kind of slowdown? I mean, is there a stranglehold on the transfer rules? Because it seems like what we talked about yesterday, one team can basically create a super team if the other team closes down. And in the world of COVID that we're in right now, I don't think it's too out of the ordinary to see schools shut down games, shut down schools, go remote, and shut down programs, which would open up opportunities for other programs. Have the transfer rules gone too far, and can they be stopped at this point? Paul, I know you've got some haymakers to throw. We'll lead off with you.
I mean, I'm kind of torn on the issue for the fact that, if a school would shut their program down, then, you're punishing those kids. If some of those kids, it could be their last year to play football or any sport really. And if you're punishing those kids, I mean, they didn't do anything wrong. And the topic I think of was, Cheney. Cheney they still had their school open, but they'd shut all their athletics down. So they opened the door and said those kids could go anywhere they wanted to. And a lot of those kids went to Fitch. They might have gone to Mooney and Ursuline and places like that. But when the program came back, the kids could come back there then and go back to that school again where they're from and not be either bused somewhere else or have to drive to another school. So when that happens, I think it's kind of tough. But, like right now with the way COVID was, and a school did something like that, what you saw was like what, McNuggies was talking about yesterday was, that Cleveland Shaw team, they just were able to load up because they got a bunch of kids come from a school that was next door to them who, they shut their program down because of COVID and they loaded up their team and, they might make a deep run in the playoffs because of it. And again, it's just a weird topic because you're like, do you punish the kids because the school shut down? Or do you let the kids go somewhere else, but then you're kind of almost punishing other kids at other schools because you're like, this team just loaded up and now we've got to basically play an all-star team, but why is that our fault that their school shut down? So, it really depends on which side of the fence you sit on. I think either way, kids get punished no matter what.
Where does recruiting come into that, Paul? I mean, like if a school shuts down, how quickly are the sharks, so to speak, out there to pick these kids up? And, could it be like the Miami Heat of the old days where the kids could all decide together, we're all just going to go here, load up? Or can you see a little bit of splintering? Can you see two kids go here, two kids go here, two kids go here, and break it up? I mean, there's got to be some type of recruiting that goes into this, given the circumstance. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and the bad thing was, when that happened a handful of years ago around here, there were coaches that got caught doing that. There were emails and text messages to kids, and it wasn't because the school was shutting down, but like it was an open thing where, they were just like, hey, why don't you come here? I know that's a little bit different than what you were talking about there, but I think you'll see more of the kids going, hey, we've got a couple buddies that go over there and they're going to be pretty good. So let's go there and doing that instead of, I think it would be kind of a slime ball move if a coach was like, hey guys, meet me at the Burger King parking lot, and you round them all up and say, hey, why don't you come to my school this year because your school's done? If I was that other coach, I'd be like, what are you doing, man? Like, why are you doing that to these kids? Let them make their own decisions instead of trying to like snake them away from us, because God forbid when that school does come back and you might have to play that school, I would try to stick it to them for doing something like that.
Well, I think one of the biggest concerns was when Pennsylvania was still up in the air whether they were going to play or not. And there was a lot of schools on the border, such as East Palestine, Hubbard, that were being kind of, I don't want to say influenced because nothing ever came of it, obviously. But I think there was a lot of, hey, what happens if all these kids from Blackhawk and Beaver Falls decide to go to East Palestine? The Bulldogs look a little bit different if that's the case. And then you look at these Palestinians and go, well, that's BS because the kids just want to play football. Where do you draw the line? And I'll turn it over to EB because he's our ethics guy. Where do you draw the line in the sand when it comes to academics versus athletics?
Well, to backtrack a little bit,
sure.
These rules have always been in place. They just kind of made people aware of it with COVID. You could always the transfer rules, to my understanding, always were if you attend a school and that school does not give you that sport or a or a sport to participate in, you can go to a neighboring school more or less. So all COVID did do, all OHSAA did was say, well, if your school shut down, then you can go ahead and transfer, or you can go to another school without having to sit out or have any penalty, more or less. Is it fair? Is it right? I don't know, because you have a bunch of bylaws. I don't think you can really actively recruit if you're a coach from a neighboring school, especially if you're a public school. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. I mean, it's not hard for me to say, hey, DJ, why don't you go talk to this dude over here, and we'll see what happens. But I mean, you could always transfer. It was just one of those things. If your school doesn't offer that sport, so if I go to Columbiana and they don't offer soccer or football, then I could easily go to Crestview, still attend Columbiana as my home state, as my home school, but then I'm allowed to go play football at Crestview because they offer it. That's always been kind of in the wheelhouse with the OHSAA. Now, and you can get into bylaws as far as, different transfer rules and whatnot. It was just, this is going to go away. No one opened up, and I think a lot of stuff was a panic move, and people didn't think things through, especially with COVID. I'm not exactly sure how it goes when you cross state lines, because PIAA governs their sports a lot different than OHSAA does.
Sure.
So, I'm not exactly sure, or I couldn't really answer on what happens if you cross state lines. Is it right? Maybe and maybe not. Because when you take a school, when you take a school like Glenville and you take those kids and then now you put them at, Cleveland Shaw, of course people are going to say it's not right. But you also kind of look at the logistics of things. Where are they going to go? You can't exactly truck them from, Glenville and be like, well, we're going to disperse two here, because we want to keep it even. If it makes sense for them to go to that school, just logistically to get there, then that's how you have to do it. It's I don't know. It's a sticky situation. It's what's right, what's wrong, what's not. A lot of people are going to disagree with it, especially now in playoffs where you've had some teams who are 4-2, 3-3, and they're starting to gel together. And now someone comes in, and they beat, like that Cleveland Shaw beats a pretty good Beaver local team. I'm probably a little salty if I'm Beaver local. But
is this accurate? Is this Billy's chiming in, of course, because he's sitting on his couch and not on the show. You cannot have a PA address and play sports in Ohio. Is that accurate? Does anybody know that to be true?
I believe so. I'm not 100% sure though.
So if
That's
you
a different governing body, like Bailey said, that goes from PIAA to OSHA.
So what if you attend this school in Ohio, but you're on the other? Like, for instance, I'm in East Palestine. You got Chippewa right down the road. What if they attend school and they're not allowed to attend school, or they're not allowed to play sports, or is that one and the same?
You can probably attend school, you just can't play sports, or you have to have a mailing address. Like back in, so when we were in school, before recruiting got really big or transferring got really big, because not everyone opened up to open enrollment. If I wanted to go to East Palestine, all I had to do was generally go get a PO box or rent a house, and I have a mailing address.
Right.
And I can still live with my parents. That happened all the time. I don't know how that
Still
works.
does.
Yeah,
So here's another question I want to get to, and anybody can feel free to answer. Michelle Snyder's saying, are you saying that if a student shuts? Are you saying that if a school shuts down sports for COVID, an athlete can transfer to a school without sitting out any games and play during playoffs?
Obviously, that's true, because if those kids transferred to Shaw, they immediately played. So there was no sitting out.
Well, I guess my question is, did Glenville start the season with football?
I believe that their city shut it down before the season had started.
That's why they didn't have to sit. If they would have started the season and they got 2 to 3, 4 games, we're all the way up to the playoffs, and then Glenville decided to shut it down, those kids couldn't do anything. They'd be locked. Yeah. But if Glenville said, or the city of Cleveland said, all city schools were not doing football at all. Now those kids can transfer to a neighboring district.
Here's another statement, more or less. Not fair to kids. You have stuck with you now and not good enough because so and so came. Don't like it. I guess I could see that. I guess this is another lesson in life that, guess what? Life isn't fair. And individualism is becoming a more regular thing on a basis at a younger age each and every day. Teamwork isn't exactly pushed anymore, right? It's all about the individual. We see it at the highest ranks. We see it all the way down. Very few times in very special teams do you see teamwork. I was so proud, and nothing in McNuggies, being a Beaver local student, you want to look at a team effort, everything top down from Beaver local, from their volleyball team, is a team effort. Sarah Lowe might be one of the most underrated coaches in the entire state when it comes to volleyball because of what she practices, what she preaches. It's all about the team. She talks about her team. It's a team effort, anybody on or off the floor. So the individualism continues to grow, not just in this area, but in the country, about it's me, 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 me. And there still are some coaches out there that just continue to push the team first. And that's good because those people will succeed because they're going to understand that sometimes you're not going to have your best day. You're not going to have your best outing, and somebody's going to have to pick you up. And if you aren't a team member first and you don't pick them up, it's going to be awful tough for them to do the same for you. Hang on 1 second. We got lots of comments coming in, so I apologize, guys. This is nice, though, right? Brandon McPherson saying, I feel all schools recruit to a point. Would you agree with that, Quinn?
I don't want to agree to that because that just makes it sound crappy, but I would assume that a lot of teams probably out there doing it.
Okay. McNuggies, how do you feel about that?
I feel to some extent that's true. There's definitely, I feel like, a handful of schools that try to do things by the book, but for the most part, I'd say at the least over 60-65% are recruiting to some extent.
Brandon wants to follow up and say Ravenna High School lost their best girl on the basketball team because her AAU coach has ties to Stowe. The coach teaches at Stowe but doesn't coach at Stowe, so every school recruits. We got 2 AAU basketball coaches. Guys, do you feel that being an AAU coach gives you a distinct advantage in pulling somebody?
No, dude, I've coached AAU. I've been a director for 6-7 years ago. You haven't seen any of the girls that I coach dropping where they're at and coming to play for me. You don't see. It's not like Molly, Maddie Howard, Nate Fryer, and Tanner Hoffer picked up and left last year and said, "Well, we're going to go play for Coach Bailey because we like him, or we're going to go to Lisbon because that's where Quinn's at." It's like anything else. There's snakes in the grass everywhere, and I don't know that situation enough to really comment about it because you do get into sticky situations with, different bylaws, and I'm not going to speculate on it, but
it happens. It does.
Yeah,
happen.
it's it's just it doesn't matter whether it's basketball, baseball, there's really no club sport for football, but soccer, it's going to happen. If all of a sudden 10 girls who were within an hour's driving distance started to transfer to where I'm coaching at, then you might want to raise an eyebrow. But, I don't know of anything. Pretty much Quinn and I have a pretty good rapport with a lot of AAU coaches in this area because we're all pretty close. And if something like that did happen, my first gut instinct would be say it must have been a mistake or, something like that, or someone didn't understand the rules. But I don't know to speculate or throw anyone under the bus to know about it. But everyone that I know, and Quinn, you can agree or disagree, but they're all it's all about the kids. It's not about, hey, come to my school.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's another one from Brandon McPherson. Said, same with Akron schools. Summit County shut down sports, so the kids did transfer, some of them. Now, here's the bigger, I think, outlying issue is, let's say COVID goes by the wayside between now and next year. Do those kids go back, or does that school that they went wrap their arms around them and say, you're ours now, and cater to them and do all the things that they have to do in order to, when you have an open enrolled kid. I mean, I don't think they get preferential treatment, but I feel like they're in the competition now, right?
But I guess the question would be like, are those kids? The schools shut athletics down. They didn't shut down their academics. So are those kids going to school at one place and then driving in the afternoon to go play football at another place? Or did they pick up everything and go to that other school? That's the question I'd like to know, because if they did that, then yeah, maybe those kids could be like, hey, we're staying here now. We're okay. But if they're still going to school at school A, but playing sports at school B because they get sports there, then when sports are over, then they still stay at school A,
To my understanding, they're still going to school A. They're just playing sports.
Yeah.
So this brings up another point.
How weird is that, though?
Well, we've been talking over the last couple weeks about GPA and schools that have different levels of academic eligibility. My question is, if you have a school that's a 2.0, right, that is
School
shutting
A.
down, school A, and a school that's a 1.0, it's school B, how do you regulate that if you've got kids that aren't ready to, one way or the other, if they don't meet the standards? How does that work?
I guess you hope that the school you're going to play sports, if you're a kid who really wants to play sports, you're hoping that they've got a lower GPA, so you could say, all I got to do is skate by at school A. I'm still going to get to play sports over here.
But not only that, Paul, but you more than anybody understand that all schools are on different curriculums, and some schools are a little bit higher and expect more of their students and are out in front of other districts, where other schools are lagging behind. How is that fair to the kids necessarily that are in the higher bracket? Let's say the higher bracket is school B, that school A, you can just kind of cruise by and then go crash somebody's party that's maintaining a higher academic standard than the kids coming in.
So I'm gonna assume that as long as you're passing 5 credits and you hit all the OHSAA requirements, I think what happens next is you need to have both superintendents sign off on it.
Okay. I think that's fair. I do. I can't believe. I mean,
I'm assuming if you go by standard transfer bylaws, like hypothetically, and McNuggies, just because you're in high school, but if McNuggies is getting bullied at Beaverville, which I hope isn't true, because only we're allowed to bully them anyways.
That's right. But, leave them alone.
But if he was and he wanted to transfer, we'll say to Crestview, he has to present his case to OHSAA. And then both superintendents have to sign off on it. So I'm assuming that's what it is to keep it uniform. But then again, that's above my pay grade. So
here's the answer from Michael Page. I think this is the perfect answer. Be good at the sport, and you don't have to worry. Keep your grades up, and be good at the sport, and you don't have to worry. Right? That's basically what it boils down to. Interested, Coach Matt Seidel saying that didn't a local school just get busted? I don't. I just sent him a text asking him if they did, because I'm not aware of any. I could be completely wrong, but I have no idea. This is not aimed at one particular school. It's just a scenario that we came across and thought would be a good topic. So final thoughts on this whole thing is, I don't think we'll ever be on the all on the same page that this is right or wrong, whether it be open enrollment, transfer, or situations like that. But I did want to bring it out and talk about it and see where we're at. Ty, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I personally, I'm kind of with Paul. I'm on the fence about it, because I also agree that, like, you're screwing those kids over that have been there since, it goes back to a discussion we had a couple months ago, like the college transfer rule. If you've been there since you were a freshman and you've played through the ranks, you've gone to the practices, and it's like it's your chance to start. You're finally that junior, senior, and then someone else just kind of steps on your toes, transfers from another area. Then you're getting kind of gypped out of that starting position and a chance to actually like play football in high school. I don't know though, because I've always been kind of, I don't want to say like skeptical, but I mean, I guess that's a word I can use in this situation of high school sports entirely, because I kind of like the European way and how they do sports, where it's like it's the schools, and then they do the schools, and then the club sports are a whole separate thing during the sports season. And you could do the club sports, but keep it still within the boundaries of a city. So Youngstown has their club sport, Austintown has theirs, Boardman, East Palestine have theirs. That way you keep the kids in that town in for that specific team, and there's really no way to transfer them, because if a school shuts down, it's separate from the sport entirely. Because I feel like there's too many issues that arise from having student athletes, because then there's the whole GPA where you could raise and lower it. It's a by school basis, and it's the transferring things, because there's, if it's not coaches, you know that kids are in each other's ears, like, let's go play here. And I don't know, I feel like if you did something separated like that, because it's worked in other countries. I mean, it may or may not work here. We don't know for sure, but I mean, it would definitely be interesting that if you separate the school from the sport, but had the sport still play in the season, you still have sports seasons with high school level athletes, but it's just that sport represents the city rather than a school.
We kind of do that already.
Yeah.
We have AAU, we have JO, we have club soccer.
And that's club sports.
Yeah. I mean, there's ton of kids who don't play high school sports, but they play club sports.
But that's what I'm saying. Instead of the high school season, you replace that with another club sport for that town. So essentially all the kids that are playing in that high school are now playing a club sport during that season.
So instead of high school basketball for girls, you'd want to see Ohio Lakers basketball for girls?
You would so it would be the teams essentially. So like you have your girls basketball teams that are the Austintown Fitches, whatever, the Boardman, but you keep it confined to the girls in that city. The same girls that are playing basketball there are going to play for their city anyway, because they're not going to be able to cross boundaries with that. So the girls that are attending Boardman High School are going to play for Boardman Basketball Club or whatever.
So you're just saying take away the GPAs?
No, take away the GPAs and separate the school from the sport entirely is what I'm saying. It's not something that I think would happen.
No, it won't, because if you take away sports from schools, there is a significant amount of revenue that goes along with it. So that I don't think will ever be an option, because think about, I mean, where we're at in COVID and how many schools are having issues right now because they can't get ticket sales.
Yeah, and I understand that it's a whole big part of revenue in America. I think it was more.
Nancy chiming in, the Struthers athletic director, saying instead of moving from school to school, you move from city to city, and there's no difference.
Well, that's the thing, and I mean, this is different countries that I'm bringing up. It's food for thought. It's not something that I believe will happen, but it's the city it's a boundary, so it's like a red line. So if you have an address from Boardman, you cannot play for any other club sport other than the one that represents your city. That's how it essentially works in European countries when they do these club sports that are separated from high school, because a high school is essentially supposed to be a place for learning, and sports or something entirely different.
Well, all you'd have to do is shut down open enrollment, and
you could do that as well. Yeah,
it's like the Mighty Ducks, right? When Adam Banks had to come back and play for the Mighty Ducks instead of the Hawks. Get that reference?
Let's go, Cake Eater.
He lived inside the boundary.
I wouldn't be adverse to that. I think that's not America, though. You know, this is we're the land of freedom. So you have freedom, because reality is I have the opportunity to take my girls from one school to another, and it's a choice. If this school has better academics, I should be able to take my girls wherever I feel like it, as long as I'm willing to put in the work and resources to do it, whether it costs me money, costs me gas, and costs me time. I'm a firm believer in you should be able to have your kids educated, but I also don't think you should make the decision to move your kid because of athletics. I think that's the line for me. It's drawn right there, because I don't feel that's fair. I don't think that's the right thing. There should be consequences for academic challenges and not athletic challenges. Like your athletics very rarely are going to lead you to opportunity outside of busting your tail and learning how to be a teammate and all that stuff. I don't feel like we should put all the emphasis. Believe me, I love sports as much as the next guy. you're here. That's why. But I don't think you should put all your eggs in the sports basket, the athletics basket. I think you
Why
should move
there's-
your kid for academics and not sports.
That's why they're student athletes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and much to your point there, DJ. I agree with you mostly too. Is that you shouldn't be able to. I don't like the whole transferring thing either, because, like you said, there's a very small percentage that are going to take those athletics in high school and go far with it and make it pro. And I know we had a discussion about it too, about crossing state borders too, when the whole Ohio football season was up in the air. And I'm not a fan of it unless there's outliers to the whole scenario. There's some exceptions where a kid
if
is
you're being bullied and it's relentless and you can't get away from it, your kid. I get it, but there has to be a history of it. It has to be documented. You can't just go and say, "Hey, my kid's being bullied. I'm going to school B." That's what we're getting. If there's nothing to draw off of, then I think that's a load of BS. And the parents have to have accountability. Literally, and again, Paul is huge about this. I'm on that boat now too. It comes down to parents. Parents have to be able to stand up and say, listen, X, Y, Z. It's documented. We've talked it over. Nothing's being done, and now we're moving to a different, we're removing ourselves from the situation. Just because a team goes, is really good in basketball and you want your kid to be really good in basketball or whatever the sport may be, is not a good enough reason to pick them up and move them. It's just not. And that's, a lot of people, move for a lot of different reasons and transfer for a lot of different reasons. Sports should not be one of them. I'm just not a believer in that. And I'm sorry if that offends anybody. I just don't think that's the right way. Think about your kids' friends. Think about all the stuff that you've built with that school, and then you're cutting ties because you want to chase statistics or give your kid a better chance to play basketball or whatever sports up. Get out of here.
You're also setting your kid up for failure.
Yeah.
Pretty much you're saying if you got to work hard or you got to do something or you might be in a situation that you're not going to just move. Just grass is always greener somewhere else. And to answer Kate, actually, no. If they go to a feeder program, then they're not considered a recruit. But also on the parochial side of things, if you do not live in that district and say you live in Poland, but you go to Cardinal Mooney, you now counts as 3.5 kids opposed to just one.
Yep.
So that's why Mooney and Ursuline and all these parochial schools really limit who can come in and who can't, because for every student athlete or any student who comes in outside of the district counts as 3.5 students opposed to just one.
And you know what's funny about that, EB, is years ago, for the longest time, obviously before I was affiliated with YSN, I really disliked a lot of the Catholic schools around here because they recruited flat out. They did. They went into the Struthers, the Campbells, and all the bigger schools, and they recruited those kids to come there. And I got in an argument one time with somebody, and I said, they limit how many kids they bring in there. And this person's like, you're full of crap. You think they're going to limit how many kids are coming in there paying $6,000-$7,000 a year? I'm like, yeah, because the more kids they let in, like you said, those numbers count against them. Guess what divisions they have to keep moving up? They got to keep playing up divisions in sports. The next thing you know, they're playing D1, D2, D3. Granted, they play those in regular season, but when it comes to the playoffs, you look at this. Mooney's in Division 5. Ursuline's in Division 4. But the kids that are going there are kids from other schools, bigger schools, and they play big schedules like that. And I was laughing because I'm like, no, they turn kids away. They will turn kids away from coming to their school because they know, like you said, they count as bigger numbers against them going forward. Look at that, the trickster.
So I have a question though for you, EB. Is that just with parochial schools, or is that all schools where an open enrollment, a student is going to count as more? Is that just
That's parochials. I think if you go from public to public, your home school actually has to pay the school that you're going to. Paul, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and it might be 1.5 or something like that.
It's you're right where it's higher. It's 3. If a kid would
as much as 6.
Yeah, if a kid would come here, now it all depends on how long they've been here. Say I can speak from example from South Range. Jake has been here.
Whoa, no names.
Okay, a kid, has been here since they were in 2nd grade. So they really only count as 1.5 by now. But if a kid came here in high school or their first year was a freshman, they can count up to like 3 or 4 against that school going forward.
Because I was just wondering, because then that could be a way transfer wise then, because if there's a bunch of kids that just up and move to say Shaw, and then you have to move up divisions because each kid counts as,
Well, you have to realize when you transfer too, like it's not just like McNuggies wants to pick up tomorrow and transfer to Crestview and it's all, rainbows and butterflies. He has to send his transcripts. The superintendent's gonna view everything, and if they don't like if he doesn't meet certain GPA requirements, they'll just say no, you can't come in.
Yeah.
I think South Range, like their superintendent won't accept anyone who doesn't have like a 3.8 or above because he has a standard. Now I don't know if that's a true GPA, but hypothetically speaking, just because you want to keep that standard for your school.
There's a lot of stuff that goes into it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're looking at open enrollment, you don't want to bring in trouble. You know what I mean? That's the last thing you want to do.
And how many spots are open in that grade as well? That always plays into it. They like to keep the grade numbers at a certain level, so that always factors into it as well. But
here's another thing, guys, is I think there's a misconception about open enrollment and transferring. B Irish 30 chiming in saying, didn't Heartland just get a basketball player because he was bullied at his previous school? We don't know, but I can tell you from the hearsay that none of that was the case. It just happened to be a situation where it wasn't a good fit and an opportunity, that a parent wanted to move their kid, or a set of parents wanted to move their kid to a different school. That's all I know about the situation from an internal standpoint. It had nothing to do with the academics per se, and that's kind of just the way it goes. And I think people need to back down a little bit. Again, everybody saw that what I had out there with regards to a certain newspaper article. Like, people are no better when they're spreading hearsay like that. I mean, I'm not pointing out, be Irish 30 or anybody, but like, there's sometimes it's none of your damn business why a kid moves from one school to another. And some people speculate it's because of basketball. It's because of the sport. It's because there could be a lot of factors in that nobody knows about. So, I guess the best advice I have is handle your business, right? If it ain't your kid or if it ain't your family, don't spread any rumors about it. That's what I've got, because there's been a lot of rumors in this Youngstown area about a lot of kids, and I get it, scuttlebutt. It sells newspapers, it sells all this, but these are kids. They're kids. You know what I mean? They're kids. They're not driving the bus, is what I'm trying to say. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's going to be a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about sports betting in Ohio. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea?
Goodbye.
Bye, McNuggies. Will it generate opportunity for schools? Will it generate opportunity for businesses? What will it do for the great state of Ohio? All that and more when we come back on the YSN Power Hour minus McNuggies after this.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms. It just tastes better.
And welcome back to the YSN Power Hour. We are ready to go. Before we get going on sports betting, we want to send a little shout out here to the guy down in the bottom left-hand box. Billy McCartney joins us. A little surprise showcase of Coach Mack. What's up, buddy?
What's going on?
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me today. It's a real privilege.
Welcome to the G Burbank Farm
What brought you
studio,
to
my
HQ?
friend.
What's that?
Yeah, what did bring you to HQ?
I went out and got some sponsors for this weekend for playoff football.
For the Bray. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Thank you to, I'm going to make sure I say it right, Quality Switch, who is going to, breaking news, be completely footing the bill for the LeBray game. So LeBray will be our free game of the week, courtesy of Quality Switch and Billy McCartney. Thank you so much for that. Really excited for this game. 55 points they put up last week, and I think they've got the opportunity to be the darling of the Youngstown and Northeast Ohio as we move forward. So you and Betos will have the call. Again, Billy Mack, tip of the cap to you for working hard out there and busting your button. And thanks to Quality Switch for making that game free for everybody here on YSN. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Let's go. Billy is the man. That didn't take long.
We're the A-team. A-team, Billy. Let's go.
A-team, baby.
Sending the A-team to Wycliffe.
Thank you, Quality Switch, says Mama Yoakley. And absolutely. Guys,
I just
sports.
got Billy. Are you guys carpooling together?
Yeah, they're going to meet in Boardman.
Oh, that's going to be it.
Don't expect them to come to HQ.
To get there.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Don't expect them to come to HQ.
That should be a show on its own. The Billy Betos road trip.
On the road?
Oh, it's a jam session.
On the road with Billy and Betos.
I feel like there's a lot of Creed and Nickelback going on.
There was, and then I had to kill that real quick.
Yeah.
And
I
Bangs.
can only imagine.
Like, what do we do? I think we're
Bangs
going
down
to
on
go
the
drive
road.
off the side of the road here.
Guys, let's talk about jeez, oh man, sports betting in Ohio. There's a lot of takes on this, not official yet, but according to Senator Rowley, it's going to happen in 2021. There's a lot of people that are really I don't say pissed, but there's a lot of people that are pissed about it, and a lot of people that think this is going to be great for revenue generation in the Buckeye State. Let's go to EB real quick. Don't ignore us, McNuggies. We're going to kind of go around you and then get you on the back end. EB, do you feel like sports betting Ohio would be proper? Do you think it's be a good thing? And do you think that as long as it doesn't, you're not betting on high school sports, do you think that it can help generate revenue in the Buckeye State and for schools?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, me personally, I'm a fan of it. And you're just each year that goes by, you're leaning towards this more and more with whether it's going to be esports. Yes, Steve, they suck. We know. And you should always take the over and definitely never the points. But that's how the Cowboys are. But yeah, outside of high school, it's going to generate tax revenue for the state, which essentially and ultimately is going to either send it back to the schools or the colleges. If anyone knows anything about Vegas, I'm pretty sure you attend UNLV for next to nothing just because of the tax revenue that they generate from the casinos and whatnot out there. So more and more you see casinos and racinos open up around here. We have the one in Austin town, obviously. There's Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, and who knows what else along the river. So why not? If you're not a fan of it,
don't do it.
Don't gamble. Outside of that, how does it affect you? It's like if I like to go to a bar on a weekend, but you don't like to drink, how does it affect you? Because it doesn't, other than you just bitching to say that you don't like it. Let it happen, especially if it's gonna sit here and generate this tax revenue, and if it can help out with schools, the roads, if it can lessen the tuition bills or whatever it might be. Definitely, I'm all for it.
Britt Taylor saying it'll help generate tax revenue. It may also help create jobs in the state as well. I agree with them wholeheartedly. Billy Mack, your opinion on sports betting here in the great state of Ohio?
Can't wait. Super excited for it. Pretty sure we're going to have a show on it when it comes out, so stay tuned for that. I like it. I think it's great. I think you look at the emergence of fantasy football in the NFL and what it's done for the NFL. It's keep when you have a bad team, ratings go down, right? So like for years, the Browns weren't very good. So why would we watch it? We only stayed tuned to watch Peyton Hillis get touchdowns so for our fantasy team, and it keeps us engaged into other games too, whether it be even at like the college basketball level, it can keep us engaged. So why would we want to watch Toledo versus Kent State if we're not from either one of those schools?
Because you got $50 on it.
Maybe because we got $50 on it. So now you're looking at there's some revenue, and now you're going to see some revenue and ratings. So, and then sponsors. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, let's not kid ourselves. Sponsors is what generates sports everywhere, whether it be at the NFL, whether it be with YSN or other places too. So, I think it's a good thing overall. I don't see any bad issues coming from this. I don't see why this is even really a debate. I think it should just be done already.
Quinn, with so many states surrounding Ohio already jumping into sports betting and really profiting from Ohio people and Ohio residents, do you feel like we've missed out on the boat already? And do you think we can make that up by keeping people right here?
Yeah, I mean, make the argument we missed the boat because it's not here, Like it hasn't been here. And I mean, people go to Mountaineer or they'll go to Pittsburgh to do the betting that they would do here. So, I mean, keeping it here would be huge. And like Billy said, there's really not a negative to it. It really isn't.
Paul, what do you feel about, how do you feel about sports betting? Do you feel that it's something that would be constructive? And do you think that schools and businesses could help be, I guess, funded or supported by sports betting in Ohio?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it would benefit big time because, I mean, the schools have lost so much money over the past years, due to a former governor that we had that, he pillaged a lot of our public schools and took money from them. And if there's another way to generate some money, I mean, the lottery is already there. The lottery generates money for the schools and themselves too. So if you can do this, and I think the people will stay here. And, you said, will we get those people back? Yeah. And instead of driving to Pittsburgh or instead of driving down to Mountaineer, you can stay right here and do it. If Austintown would have it, there's a lot of people in this Youngstown area that go to Mountaineer and go to Pittsburgh that now they can say, all I got to do is drive to Austintown to play some bets or sure, go for it. I think it would be very beneficial to not only like the local cities that could generate some more money, but again, the state in general. I think it'd be great to do. So, I mean, there's no other way to get that money back. People don't want to pay more taxes, but boy, they'll sure gamble a lot. So if you're gonna take some of that money and they're willing to give it up freely, then take some of that to give back to the schools and stuff.
Ty, we've talked a lot about casinos and racinos and things of that nature and sports books. Let me ask you about this. There is fantasy betting. There is, the FanDuel. There is DraftKings and things of that nature. Barstool has their own sports betting app now. Do you feel like it would help, from a standpoint of having digital online betting and things of that nature for the state of Ohio because they still get a cut of it?
Absolutely, because it just comes down it's convenience, and I mean the whole idea of sports betting in Ohio. I mean, not to repeat what anyone else said, but I mean it's a cash cow. I mean, there really isn't too many like negatives really to come from it. And like Paul said, it's essentially paying taxes, but you're just gambling with it for a chance to win some money back. So I like the whole idea, and I think if everything does go digital, if they make those kind of cuts from it, I don't see it's a convenience fee. Then you don't have to go to a local place or anything like that to do it. I mean, if everything's just on an app, I think it makes it a lot more convenient. And like everyone says, I mean, honestly, it's a cash cow, and I don't see why we haven't done it yet. And I think it's something that should have been done a long time ago. But I'm glad that we're finally jumping on board and hopping on this train before it leaves the station.
Fingers crossed. Nothing's done yet. My good friend Darren Miller is saying whatever the lottery brings in the budget gets cut by that amount every year. Interesting. I never heard or have been familiarized with that point before. So that's definitely interesting.
So it's like a push.
What's that?
It's like a push. Hey, we're going to give you this money from the lottery, and then the state might say, "Oh, we're going to cut this much from your budget."
Well, it's like a loan almost. You know what I mean? That's basically what it is. If you think about it, that's okay. You can have this money from here, but we're going to take it on the back end.
Well, yeah, because if you win the lottery, the state has to have that money to give to you, correct?
Brian Moore, perfect. It's a shell game. That is a perfect Paul Munson reference right there. Shell game. You love that reference.
Yep.
Any final thoughts on sports bet? I think it's going to be fantastic. I really do. I loved your analogy, EB. If you don't like bars and you don't like drinking, don't do it. There's an opportunity. Some of us like sports betting. Some of us like gambling. Listen, I don't like going and pulling down a lever and taking the chance on 3 wheels coming up 7s. So I don't do it because I feel like I don't have control of that. I've got the control to bet on my team or somebody else's team or whatever. As long as I pay taxes on it or do it in a legal way, I don't see any problem with that, right? It's all the same as every other vice that
I feel
people
like the
have.
people who complain about it are either the ones who sit there and play the little casino games on Facebook or the ones who make me wait 15 minutes every morning at Circle K buying scratch-off lottery tickets. So.
And how is that? I guess that's my biggest beef is how is that legal and sports betting is not? Like what's going to happen with sports betting that is completely different than scratch-off tickets and things of that nature?
Technically, if you go play bingo, sports betting. If you do a 50-50 at a football game, sports betting. It's already here. Just open it up.
I agree with that. Any final thoughts on sports betting? McNuggies, would you like to have your school kind of pumped in a little bit more money via like DraftKings or somebody like that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if it does come in 2021, after those couple ice cream seasons have passed, I will be all over sports betting. I'm not going to shy away from it. I will be
don't do that.
Yeah.
So this is
Let's not do that. Now I got to do this.
No,
now I got to do
not
this.
literally.
Gambling problem,
Not
call
literally.
1-800-GAMBLER. Thanks, McNuggies.
This isn't like
I'm
the
going
old
to-
days
Not
where like
literally.
people were paying off players and the Chicago Black Sox issues. This isn't that era, right?
I think it's harder now to get away with that stuff than ever before. Everything's traced.
There's internet, there's trace, there's text messages. You can't hide from information.
And there are people who are going to snitch out on you.
And you mess
like
up,
Fire
you don't have
Houston
thumbs or
Astros.
kneecaps. So there's the end of it. So, again, gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. I think we're going to have to do that in 2024 for McNuggies. So that's going to bring an end to the big part of our show today. We're going to go to the G. Burbick Farms. What's your beef? We'll start with you, McNuggies. What's your beef today?
My beef is with the NFC East because they suck. It's horrible. Watching that game last night was absolutely painful. And, I mean, there's reports coming out now that the Dallas Cowboys are already dysfunctional. McCarthy hasn't even coached 7 games with the Cowboys. It's a dumpster fire watching the NFC East, and they should be ashamed to be a division in the National Football League.
Wow. The only Dallas Cowboy fan we have on the panel today is EB. EB, what would you like to talk about for your G. Burbick Farms? What's your beef?
Wow, this might be the first time ever, so I'm glad everyone's sitting down. I agree with McNuggies. The NFC East is a dumpster fire. There's a reason why Jerry Jones hired McCartney, because he's not going to get any resistance. And there's always been turmoil in the Cowboys locker room, so it's nothing new. Outside of that, my beef is people who don't go the speed limit. Look, speed limit's 45. You want to go 45? Perfectly okay. Don't go 35 and then sit there and wonder why people are on your ass the whole time and there's a line of 10 cars behind you.
I just got to get that in. Just one more. There you go. Agrees with McNuggies. We'll go to Quinn for look. McNuggies having a celebration down there in the middle box. All right, let's go to Quinn. What's your G. Burbick Farms beef?
I've got 2 of them. One of them's with you for making this yellow and black on a day where, I didn't want to deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that still kind of hurts. And the second thing is with Bethesda not paying you. That's my beef. Pay up.
No balls.
He's never moved so fast out those doors. Unbelievable. My man put 20 bones on the Bills. By the way, puffing his chest out
to beat the Chiefs.
To beat the Chiefs. I gave him 5.5. And I'll tell you what, he had his chest all puffed out, talking about he's 60%. Never bet a dime on any of the bets that he had. Never put $1 down, but he's puffing his chest about 60% accuracy. And then I brought in a $20 bill. No money has exchanged hands yet, by the way. I'll have you know, because Here's the $20 bill right here, still, and it'll stay there because I'll continue to say, "Hey,
needs a
here it
friend.
is. Here it is." Yeah, it's a friendly wager, right?
No, it needs a friend.
No, it's got a friend.
It needs a friend to join it, and he won't give it up.
Well, according to him, he doesn't have any money, but I'm sure he would have been halfway up my a-hole for this $20 bill if they would have had a field goal last night in a timely fashion. So I will. Ron will pay me, don't worry, because I'm not going to let him not know about it. Also, he bet on the Cowboys last night. Cowboys were 1-point dogs, and he bet on them. And what was the final last night?
I think the Cardinals were the 1-point dogs, actually.
A lot more than 1 point.
No, the Cardinals were getting one.
Does my son drug test? Because you might want to start with this guy.
Yeah, that's crazy. I just went, okay, all right. Mac, what's your beef?
My beef's real simple. It is with the Browns organization for not calling Andrew Luck today.
He's not coming out.
Call Andrew Luck. We have a better line than
How many
Indy.
times do you, how many
Shut up, McNuggies.
how many times do you think Indy's tried
Shut
to
up.
call him?
Mute him.
Let's go to Munson.
Indy has a better line.
Mute him.
No.
My beef today is with so-called media outlets wanting to get into games legitimately, and it's just ridiculous because you're not getting in. So it's just, why are you trying to be something that you're not? You're just fake news, and that's about it.
Question:
Okay.
do you have to have a website in order to be a media outlet?
I would think so. It should be legitimate, but I mean, if you just sit in the stands and retweet things, I don't know. Can you consider that being a media outlet? So
Do you have to have an active LLC or company?
yeah,
Don't you have to
there has to be
register with the
some
with the-
legitimacy to your company, especially if you want to call yourself the CEO of it too. So I mean,
Whoa, whoa, I feel like this is turning a corner here.
yeah.
Matt Ryan of Cleveland says, Michael
No.
Page, I'm trying to get all these in. My mom saying, Quinn, it's gold for childhood cancer awareness. That is false. It is gold for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Did he look like he was running the 40-yard dash? That is perfect. I'm going to make a movie based on him running, and I'm going to put $20 right behind him the entire way. We'll get that put in there. Just kidding. He'll be back. He can smell the Pizza Joe's from Columbiana. Who else? We have. Was it the Morning Beacon?
There she goes. She's full of jokes.
Why? What is that?
Full of jokes. All right. So when I was in high school, I'll be upfront and honest. I hated paying to go to games. So what I did was I created the Morning Beacon. It was a mix between the Akron Beacon and the Morning Journal. I called it the Morning Beacon. And I would say since I was from 17 until I legitimately was allowed to get into games by real media, I got into anything I wanted. I went to races. I went to the zoo. I went to circuses. I went to everything, and it was the
Munson Live. That's what it is.
the
You
Morning
are
Beacon.
you. That's why you're so pissed off at this kid. Is because he's you.
No. I'll give him credit. He does a little more than I did. I didn't write stories, nothing. I just called and said, I'm with the Morning Beacon. Can I get a pass?
Did
Yeah,
you ever?
sure.
You never
Good.
printed an edition of the Morning Beacon?
Nothing.
Oh baby, we're printing an edition.
Nothing.
Everybody here, we're gonna.
It's got to be a blog for
she's
Paul.
not at
New
all-
blog for
her
Paul.
hands aren't clean either. She took a picture for me and made a laminated media pass. So she's just as guilty as I am.
GBA, guilty by association.
That's right. She took a picture.
She's going to jail too. Well, I'll
I'm-
take good care of the girls. Don't worry.
Yep.
The Bonnie and Clyde of scamming businesses.
The statute of limitations has passed, so the
absolutely.
Munsons are good.
Yep.
Let's go to Ty Bartell. Ty, what's your beef? Brought to you by G. Burbick Farms.
You know, I was gonna have a beef. It was gonna be with Billy Mack, that saying he was gonna sit out and then just keep commenting on the Power Hour, but he showed up, so I really have to retract that beef. So I guess no beef today.
Wow. Okay. My beef is going to be with myself. I wrote an email today to a friend and a longtime sponsor because I felt bad. You know, we have been crazy busy this time of year. And sometimes it just feels like I'm up past my eyeballs and trying to get things figured out and get things back to where we're a small business, right? That's all. That's who we are. But it doesn't excuse the fact of not saying thank you to our sponsors, personal. Like I'm talking letters, I'm talking going and visiting them, taking them lunch, whatever it may be. And I apologize to any sponsor out there that feels even the slightest bit slighted, because it has been a crazy, I want to say 6 months for us, starting with COVID and then moving forward into the football season and the volleyball season as well. So I want to, my beefs with me need to continue to strive to go over and beyond for our sponsors, because we love you so much. Without you, there is no us, and we feel the same way about the people who are watching our shows, who are utilizing our services, who are supporting us. The donations, the stuff that the people, not everybody wants credit for, or wants to be publicly seen or heard from. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you a million times over. We thank you for everything that you are, everything that you've been, and everything that you will be, because without you, again, we are just a bunch of guys hanging around talking about sports. And with you, we're a team. We're a team of journalists. We're a team of fans. We're a team of people who want to be part of your world and give you it. The facts, the laughs, and everything that comes along with it. So thank you, sponsors. Thank you, supporters. Thank you so much for everything you've done for us, not just today, but for the last 3 years. And again, it boggles my mind sometimes to think, and I have to pinch myself of where we've come from, and these guys, the same guys on this show right now, just unbelievable of being able to do this every day and call it what we do. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Final thoughts, anybody?
You're welcome. Thank you for appreciating us, sponsors.
I'll buy you a pizza, buddy. All right. That's going to do it for the YSN Power Hour, including Billy Mack. We'll see you tomorrow from 3 to 4 right here on YSN. So long, everybody.
Reliable sources, steak.